Hey guys, and welcome back. Today I'm going to be talking to you about some books that I have read recently, or they're about sort of recently. The first book I'm going to speak to you about is Seed to Harvest by Octavia Butler. Let's start off with what this is. This is a collection of 4 books from Octavia Butler, and this is her, what they've called the Patternist series. So it contained her 4 books that she wrote in these series, but they have been put together chronologically in terms of when, like, the race or the planet kind of is. So not in publication order, but chronologically in the timeline of this universe. And I read the first 2 of these last year. I don't think I ever sort of reviewed or wrapped it up. I might have spoken about it very briefly. No, that's a lie. I did talk about it in like sort of November time. And then, yes, I read the other 2 very recently-ish. And I have spoken about the 2 of these very briefly in a currently reading and what I'm loving video, because I love this so much. So the other 2 that I ended up reading this time, or this year, was Clay's Ark and Patternist. Patternist I think was the first book that was actually released in this, but chronologically it comes last. And I absolutely love these 2 books that I read. Clay's Ark is actually a really short book. I think it would be more about to be a novella, if I'm honest. And I'm really surprised that I liked it. So that's why I'm so blown away by this collection. Clay's Ark is basically a sort of what I'm deeming a contagion sort of story, where there are people living like in the wild, sort of like, carjacking people. And by carjacking these people and sort of scratching them, they make them part of their clan, I guess, but they have this sort of virus, and this virus mutates. So once you get scratched, I think it develops in like 24 hours, and then you start like craving other things. I don't want to really spoil it because it's a novella, like it's just so easy to spoil this. And it's about this family that get carjacked, and basically what ensues after that. It is so short, and it's wild to me because what happens in this is essentially things that I don't like. I don't like the fact of like people creeping around after dark, stalking people, like running after them, people having to escape. Like, you know, it really creates a lot of tension for me, and I don't like that sort of thing. I don't like to watch that sort of thing, and yeah, I don't really like to read that sort of thing, even though I don't ever come across reading it really. But that's because of how I pick my books, obviously. But yes, we basically follow a family where it's the dad and his 2 daughters, and we follow what happens to the dad, what happens to the 2 daughters as well. And there's different endings for all of the people in this family, and I can't really go into much of it without spoiling it. The one thing that I really liked about it, and something that I noticed about it, and what actually made me really appreciate the story, is there is a lot of action in this book. And usually, like, when I'm watching action on TV screens, I don't really pay a lot of attention to the scenes on TV. And the reason for that is because of how closely they cut the clips. Nothing ever stays in focus for more than 1 second. So you're not really having a clip on the screen for more than 1 or 2 seconds. So it's really hard to sort of follow who is hitting who and stuff like that. And I don't ever really read action in books. So maybe this is just normal in books, and it's probably a lot easier to follow in books. But I found it so easy to follow, like, what was happening in this. There is a lot of action in terms of fight scenes in this book, and it was just really easy to follow, and I could actually follow who was doing what and who was I never went back and thought, what, sorry, who's hitting this person, who's hitting that person. It was so easy to understand, and so I think for that reason I thoroughly enjoyed it. So then we went on to Patternist, and Patternist was really good, and I think I could only have really ever appreciated Patternist because I read the first 2. I know the kind of reader I am, and if I had just picked up Patternist on its own, I would have been like, no. Patternist is essentially about 2 boys and their fight for their inheritance, basically. But it's definitely much more than that because of the world that Octavia Butler has created. So in Patternist, we basically see everything that is built up in the first 3 books come to fruition. So that's why the addition of Clay's Ark, whilst I was reading it, it felt so random and alienated, because the way to explain this is Clay's Ark is a different race to the other races that they have in this Octavia Butler world. So we have like the Patternists and I think the Mutes, etc. And Clay's Ark was something completely new, so whilst I was reading it thinking this is cool, I was like, where the hell does this fit in? In Patternist, you find out where all of this fits in. We have this sort of Patternist who are the descendants of Doro and Anyewu, who are 2 characters in Wild Seed, The Mind of My Mind. We have the Patternist, who I think are just kind of the normal race, so say like the human race. And the Clay's Ark, so like the sort of wild race, I suppose. And then the mutes in this would be like the human race. The Patternists are like far more developed than us. So we sort of see the world building come to fruition in here. This book basically follows 2 brothers. The youngest brother, his name is Terry, and he has just left, like, I guess secondary school. He sort of graduated, it's his last final day, and he is approached by, like, I think someone who's his friend, or sort of someone who's come to regard as a really close companion, who takes him and his wife, like, out of the school. I think when you finish, you, like, sort of move into a new house, and he takes him to basically go and meet this man, who you later basically find out is his brother, and his name is Corency, and it's basically a fight for power. This guy, Terry, had no idea that he was actually related to this man, and our first chapter sort of introduces the two children, sort of how they come to be separated. And they basically have to, Terry, by force, has to kind of fight his brother. He never knew about his brother, never knew about his existence. In a way, Corency brought it all on himself by bringing his brother to him. He tries to make him subservient to him, and just, basically, he pushes the hand so that these two brothers are fighting. The ultimate Patternist is their dad, Rael, and I think basically the Corency guy has to wait for his dad to pass away before he can take it, but obviously because he's not the only son, he wants to make sure that he is the only son. So that is basically a battle of two brothers, but you come to appreciate how this world has sort of been created and how the world now works from the first two books. Out of this collection, I would definitely say my favourite is Mind of My Mind. My second favourite would be Clay's Ark, just because I'm so shocked at how much I enjoyed reading about something that I just don't tend to really find enjoyable in any way, shape or form. So yes, thoroughly enjoyed this, and I'm going to read more of Octavia E. Butler this year. But this was a wonderful introduction to her collection, and like I said, whilst I know that Patternist is a lot of people's favourites, it's not my favourite. I wouldn't even liked it if I hadn't have read the previous two. So yes, that's Octavia E. Butler. The next book I'm going to speak about is Fire Sermon. Again, I spoke about this in my currently reading / what I'm loving. And this book is basically a book about, like, female desire, betrayal, just common old good old life. And this book is about our main character Maggie and how she embarks on an affair. This book is split into 3 parts, and I think it's very nicely done. The first section, I suppose, is straight after they have sort of met. I don't know if it is for the first time. I feel like perhaps it is for the first time. And, the affair becomes, like, because before they're writing letters, so it's straight after they've met and, they sort of do the deed. The second part is, like, from the beginning. So when they first started talking and writing to each other, because that's how they met each other, they start writing. And the final part is after they have decided, after they have had their sort of sexual encounter and perhaps some letters, to stop talking to each other. So it's really, like, a varied timeline, but because they're split into 3 sections, it's very easy to follow. So like I said, they write a lot of letters, and that's how they get to know each other. Maggie writes poetry, and so does this guy, and I think they're both very heavily invested in religion, but their spouses aren't, and they're both really into poetry, and I think Maggie's really good at music or something like that. So that is basically how they connect. Maggie writes to him because I think she sees something that he writes, and from there their sort of letters ensue. So this book is told in the form of sort of letters, but also emails, instant message, but not like in that annoying like hello, because obviously they're adults, and then just general prose. So what we do is follow Maggie from when she was younger to sort of how she came to be with her husband, and we find out the sort of situation there with her husband. And then when we're flitting back to other parts, we're seeing more about them having children, their children growing up, the issues their children are facing, like different things in their lives their children are facing, their children going to college. So it sort of interweaves their children's lives into this, and this is all told from the perspective of Maggie, so we don't really ever hear from the guy that she's having an affair with, which is so nice. So then what we are hearing is just really intimate details of Maggie's life and her thoughts. And I just found this overall really precious. I will say one thing though, Maggie shares some poems with the guy. I think his name is James. Like, this is so interesting to me that I've forgotten, no, his name is Thomas, sorry. Forgotten the guy's name, which I think is good because this is definitely more about female desire and just a female perspective. But she sends some poems to Thomas, and I'm not going to lie, her poems are bloody awful. Like, as I was reading the book, I was just like, this is terrible. The writing in this is generally very good. It was just her poems that I found that were quite trash. And yeah, that is basically what the book is about. We just get to find different parts of how Maggie came to be and sort of how her life is, and not how she feels trapped in her marriage, but how there are, I guess, aspects of her life that didn't go to plan the way she wanted, but this is how she is continuing. I think it's a very interesting book, and I'd like to read more books like this because there is no fault or blame here, it's just really her account, and I just really enjoyed the way this was written. But touching on how this was written, I feel like, I don't know, Jamie's writing feels really precious to me. It reminds me a lot of when I started to really get into books as a teenager. Sometimes when she's just describing certain things, it reminds me of just why I love reading, because it's the ability to capture certain things. An example of that I'll read to you is on page 133, and it says here, in the kitchen she makes sandwiches, turkey, heirloom tomatoes, avocado, Havarti cheese. She licks Dijon from her fingers. Sun on the water, depth of green in the trees on the opposite shore. Laughter breaking the silence like shattered bits of glass. Behind the peace of this moment is a new happiness. I'm not saying this is an example of a stunning piece of writing, but what it reminds me of is just kind of reading books like during the summer and those descriptions of summer and just sort of, I don't know, being in a lake house or somewhere. And it reminds me, I guess, a lot of the books that I used to read when I was younger. Just those sort of books that just described really simple moments, like people making sandwiches to the food that they have. So I just really enjoyed certain parts of the book when she did that, and that's what Jamie does in this book. Although a lot of this is obviously about Maggie and Maggie's life, there are just these moments that she takes out to just describe the surroundings or just bits of nature that I think are just so wonderfully intertwined in here, because I think it really represents the kind of person that Maggie is. That Maggie is the kind of person that sometimes does just sit back and watch things happen. Like I feel like a lot of her life has actually been things happening to her rather than her being an active participant in it. This book was a reread for me. I actually read it in 2018 the first time, and I remember just reading it and feeling like really unsure of what I thought about it. When I reread it this time round, I actually upped the star rating that I gave it, so I gave it 3 stars originally, and this time I gave it 4. I don't know, there was something about this book, and I guess I recognised it the first time that I read it, that I just really enjoyed. It's not the kind of book that I would recommend to everyone, but it's just the sort of, I don't know, their day-to-day correspondence, the feeling of Maggie's life and that sort of stillness in it. There's something there that I really enjoyed, and so yes, I really enjoyed this book. The final book I'm going to speak to you about is From Pastor to Pigfoot by Frances Menzel Williams. I picked this up. By now you guys would have known why I picked this up. I'm just going to say it again for the last time. I picked this up because I was meant to be going to Ghana in May. I didn't get to go, and I just really wanted to read something about someone being in Ghana. This book is about our main character Faye, and Faye lives a very middle class life. She moved from Ghana to London when she was 5. Her mother passed away, so her dad brought her and her brother over, and they live in Hampstead, and they have like some sort of house help, and she's come from Glasgow. And I think Faye's probably about 23 or something like that. She's dating this guy who's not very interested in her, likes to basically say that she's very much not in touch with her backside. An event happens which sort of pushes her basically to go to Ghana and just sort of explore Ghana, explore more of her black side and all those sort of things. And it was just the perfect book that I needed. She goes there and she stays with her, I think it's like her dad's friend. Like they basically used to be friends of her mother, so they're basically like her auntie. So she goes to stay with like her auntie and her uncle, and her auntie and uncle have like a son and a girl as well who's a similar age to Faye. So her and Faye get on and they go out, and she takes Faye out and sort of gets Faye to meet her circle of friends. So I can't remember the name of the daughter in this. I know her brother's name is Rocky. So basically Faye goes around with Rocky's sister and meets like her friends. So like her friend, one of her friends' name is Baba, one of his name is Sonny, her boyfriend's name is Edwin. So she meets their gang and sort of, you know, some hilarities ensue there. But they also do a lot of sort of travelling around Ghana and sort of going around Ghana's tourist hotspots, which was really nice. So that's why this book was so good, because it was a lot of things there that I was going to go and visit. And what Frances does in this book is do like very detailed explanations of this, and sometimes I felt they were very heavy-handed, I'm not going to lie. I felt like it was more of a sort of information dump rather than it falling very naturally into the story. But I don't know how you could probably weave in so much of it and it feel natural to the story. But yes, there was a lot of description of all the different parts of Ghana, and when Faye goes there, she actually goes to a funeral of someone sort of close-ish to her family, where she gets to meet like sort of like grandparents and sort of maybe like aunties that are like directly related to her mum and actually see her mum's grave. So she goes to a smaller village, and that was really nice just to talk about the landscapes there, just the journey there. I thought that was really beautifully done. And obviously when she comes back to the flat, to the main house, and she comes back to Accra, there's also obviously a storyline that involves a boy, which is Rocky Asante, which is the host family that she's staying with, the son. So there's some sort of back and forth there, loads of miscommunications, which is just the normal thing you sort of expect from a book where people sort of like each other but don't really speak. And overall, it was just a very pleasant read. I do feel like sometimes some of the sort of scenes were overly descriptive. I can understand why, because I think Frances really wanted to get across to people the sort of beauty of Ghana and just what is in Ghana, so I can understand that actually. But yeah, overall I just, like I said, found this book to be a very pleasant read. I think I related to Faye on so many levels, so I found that quite interesting and I was able to follow through using that. And really it just reminds me a lot of the books that I used to kind of read when I was a teenager. Like, not all the books I used to read, but books like Sundowners by Leslie Loco, who's also, I think, a Ghanaian author actually. And there's another author, I can't remember, where it's about women who were sort of, at least an age that I was approaching at the time when I was reading them, who were just like living in London, sort of like in just normal jobs and just a bit unsure what to do with their lives, and they go and do something and then something exciting happens. It really gave me such a nostalgic feeling, because that's the kind of books that I used to read, like when I just really wanted a bit of escapism but also kind of wanted a bit of reality. And I think the reason why this book I found it so nice was the fact that I could relate because the character was black. So it was just really, really nice, because a lot of the books, obviously, when I read, the characters were just, not even that they were just white, they were actually quite varied, because I know in Sundowners, which used to be like one of my favourite books, I need to give it another reread, but in Sundowners I'm pretty sure like one of the characters from South Africa, I think maybe she's a white South African, but they're like from different places and they're like different races as well. So that is why I really enjoyed that book. But that is it for today's video. But yeah, let me know if you have any questions about any of these books. And also, if you have read anything from Octavia E. Butler, please let me know what you might recommend that I should read next from her. I feel like I might be picking up Kindred, or I don't know, Lilith's Blood or something like that. I don't know, I'm going to have a little bit of a search, but yes, I'm en route to read more from Octavia E. Butler. So thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll catch you in another one. Bye!